Welcome to the DIY Goalie Podcast, where hosts and goalie coaches Nathan Park and Connor Monday share their insights on how to become a better goalie. Goalies, how are we doing today? Welcome back to another episode of the DIY Goalie Podcast, presented by True North Goaltending. Flying solo today, just me, Nathan Park, your host. Connor Monday is not here with us today. He had some stuff going on personally that he is taking care of, so we're giving him a little bit of a break. That new dad life's a bit of a grind, but no, we're going to have a good one today. We are somehow in October, which means for a lot of you guys, the season's kind of kicking off. You guys are probably starting to get back into the routine of things. That also means, though, a new month, a new drill of the month that we are going to go through. And then I also wanted to go through playing in tight situations. I feel like it's been a while since we've actually dove into a meat and potatoes topic, kind of talked some technical stuff. So we're going to do that today. Should be a nice, fairly simple, quick episode with just kind of the two things to go through and me running through myself. But before we do get started, I just kind of wanted to remind you guys to check us out at truenorthgoaltending.com. We have all our merch and apparel there at our shop. You can check that out, get some shirts, get some hoodies for the season. For you goalie parents out there, we have hoodies for you guys that say "My little goalie makes big saves." We've also got stuff that says "Life of a goalie parent: eat, sleep, stress out," or "Eat, don't sleep, stress out, repeat." So we got lots of stuff, goalie parents and goalies alike there. That helps support us, kind of helps, cover expenses for the podcast and all that sort of stuff that we do over here. You can also check out, we've got drills, which I do need to update. It's been a while since we posted some new drills. That is on my list to do. We do have a lot of new drills in our bank, but they just haven't been put on the website. We also have a concentration grid generator if you guys want to be doing some concentration grids at home. That's on our site as well. And then, as always, if you are in the Edmonton area and want to come check us out for any sort of coaching services, we are there as well. Again, just before we get into it, I want to say thank you guys for tuning into us, listening to us on a regular basis. It's kind of cool to see how global our reach has been over in Europe, over in South America, in Australia, New Zealand, all of that stuff. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. It helps us to grow the podcast if you can leave us a like or a subscribe, a follow, a review. If you can share it with another goalie friend. All of that stuff kind of helps us to grow the podcast and to reach new goalies. And thanks again. Last thing, too, as we talked about on last episode, I'll put a link in the show notes. But if you guys would like to join our October Saves team, if you would want to be a part of that to raise money, or if you would like to donate money, I will put the link for all our October episodes in the show notes. And you guys can do that. We are giving away a prize pack for the top earner that joins our team. So if you guys would like to do that, hop on board. For today, or for this month's drill of the month, we are going to go through the Gauntlet. So this will be posted in the show notes. This is one that I actually took from Jamie McKaig over at Above the Crease back when I played at Nate in my college days, and he was our goalie coach. He ran this drill with us, and it's tiring, but it's a lot of fun. I think it's a good one to work on with your goalies. A little bit of competition there. But basically what it is 50 shots. So this kind of goes a little bit against what we talk about when we talk about goalie friendly practices and how quality is better than quantity. But that being said, this is kind of a fun little drill to do. So at the bottom of each circle, there'll be 20 pucks. So that's 40 of your 50 shots, and then the other 10 pucks will be kind of in the slot area. So what'll happen to start, net is in its normal spot, but the goalie will face one side or the other, facing the 20 pucks that they're going to get. The coach or the shooter is going to shoot 10 of those pucks low along the ice, and the goalie facing the puck, so they're basically, their side is facing the net. They got to steer with their stick or their pad and get 10 of the pucks into the net, or try and get as many of the 10 pucks into the net as they can. For each puck that does not go in the net, assuming it's not a bad shot by the shooter, you add one up and down to the goalie. Okay, and at the end, the goalie is going to do all their accumulated up and downs. So the first 10 shots low along the ice, the goalie has to deflect them into the net. So they're probably around the top of the crease area. Give them some room to have to make that save and deflect it into the net. Again, stick or pad doesn't matter, but if it hits the post and doesn't go in, it doesn't count. So that's an up and down for the goalie. So that's the first 10 shots. The second 10 shots are going to be high. So if it's the blocker side, again, the blocker has to deflect the puck into the net. If it's the glove side, it's every caught puck. So you have to catch the puck. If you drop a puck, that's one up and down. Or if the blocker doesn't get a puck in the net, that's another up and down. Then obviously the goalie would face the other side. You do the same thing with the other 20 pucks. So 10 low, 10 high. Again, up and down for either a missed net or a not caught puck. And then the final 10 shots from the slot, the goalie will face the pucks. Again, kind of top of the crease. All 10 shots are going to be chest shots. And for every one that the goalie doesn't corral, so if they pop out a rebound, that's one up and down. And then at the end of all 50 shots, with the accumulated up and downs, the goalie has to do them all at once. So again, you're probably, in my experience, looking at somewhere between 8 to 15-ish up and downs at the end of this, depending on age and skill level. But it's a good way to kind of throw a little bit of competition, get goalies to kind of think about where they're placing pucks and all that stuff, and just kind of a way to get some pucks. This could be a warm-up drill, though it is pretty tiring. I usually kind of save it for near the end of the season and the end of like a fun skate or something, or just like a start of the season tune-up. So again, that's kind of the Gauntlet. We'll post that in the show notes. 50 shots, lots of up and downs, gets the blood flowing. Definitely a little bit of a hidden bagger, but it is a fun one to do. So that'll be in the show notes. You guys can check it out. And that is our drill of the month. We'll also make a post of that down the road when on our socials too, if you miss that. So diving into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, in tight plays. So there's a lot of things that goalies kind of do that's too much when it comes to in tight plays. We tend to be a little impatient as goalies. Like, that's pretty common, I find, in a lot of situations. We tend to want to do more than we actually have to do. We think we have to do more than we actually have to do. And that tends to lead to a lot of panic, right? So we try and stretch out, or we try and, a big one in tight that we're going to touch on is we try and get back up to our feet. End up opening a lot of holes, could get us in trouble, right? So we tend to think we have to do more than we do. In reality, our position as goalies, our position is naturally a reactive position. We can't really go out and make things happen. We have to wait for things to come to us. So when it's in tight, when the puck's kind of closer to the net, in tight, probably within 2 to 3 feet of the top of the crease is kind of what we're talking about. And then a little bit behind the net too in tight. That's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about these in tight plays. Things happen quick, right? There's scrambles in front. There's bodies in front. People are hacking away at the puck. Things happen quick. So the more that we add to our game in tight, the more that we do, the more movement we have, the more potential we have to open up holes. So we want to make sure that we are as patient as we can be, let the play come to us. We want to be reactive as opposed to trying to make something happen, try and force something to happen. And that's what's going to put us in the best spot possible for these situations. So when we talk about in tight plays, there's obviously like everything around goaltending. There's millions probably of potential scenarios and situations that could happen to lead to an in tight play. Could be a shot from the point that kind of gets blocked, drops at somebody's feet, and then it's kind of a scramble in front. Could be a backdoor pass, could be a wraparound or a stuff from behind the net, right? Could just be, a shot and then a rebound. Anything where this puck ends up kind of in tight to the net, that's what we're going to be talking about. I really want to hammer the point home. If you guys only take one thing away from this podcast, I really want to be hammering the point home that less is more. So we kind of touched on it a little bit before, but I do see a lot of goalies that, shot comes on net, they drop for their save. Maybe it hits somebody, like gets caught in, their upper body, like it hits them in the stomach or something, kind of gets caught for a couple seconds, drops to the ice. A lot of times goalies immediately want to hop right back up. Even if that puck is only like a foot or two in front of them, they hop right back up to their feet. And what I see a lot of times happen is goalies can get caught halfway getting up, or by the time they get up and the shot comes, they don't have enough time to get back down. Puck goes through their legs or under an arm or something like that because they've opened up the holes that weren't there before. Being in your butterfly is a set position in certain scenarios. I am not telling you guys to stay on your knees the whole time. And obviously, we've talked about it lots on the podcast. If you guys have worked with us in person before, you know that we're really big proponents of building habits of moving around on our feet. But in tight, if you've already committed to a butterfly, say you're trying to make a save and it gets blocked, or say you've pushed across on a butterfly slide because of a backdoor pass in tight, and say they miss or whatever the case is, you've made a save, your rebound's there. Being in your butterfly is a set position. So if the puck is in front of you and you've already committed to a butterfly and it's in tight and there's a potential for an immediate threat back to the net, it is okay to be staying on your knees with your hands out, eyes on the puck, shoulders slightly forward, playing big, but not upright. So we're not bringing our weight back and we're not straight up and down, but playing big. Those hands are out, covering the angle. The shoulders are forward, kind of cutting off that angle too, making yourself big. Okay. And the elbows are tight into the side of the body, so there's no holes. Your knees are tight. Okay. That is a perfectly acceptable ready stance, if you want to call it that. I know it's not a stance, it's the butterfly, but that is a perfectly acceptable setup scenario if the puck is in tight, if it's sitting kind of a little bit in front of you guys. So maybe shot comes, hits you in the chest, pops out, maybe a bit of a bad rebound, it pops straight out. You can't get it right away. It's perfectly okay if there's a bit of a scrum in front to just chill and wait and see what happens. Keep your eyes on the puck, battle for that sight. If the puck moves, that's when you move, right? But we want to start having a bit more of that reactive mindset as opposed to trying to chase, trying to make something happen. And that's what's going to get us in the best spot. So don't be trying to do anything fancy. Don't be, adjusting depth a bunch or trying to move laterally or trying to get up and back down and up and back down. Okay. Less is usually more. The more that we do, the more time it takes, the more holes we open up, all of that stuff. Let the play come to you and be patient. So that's kind of my big takeaway from today. And this goes for everything, not just in tight, but in general. A lot of times goalies try to do too much, try to think they have to make something happen. Our position is very reactive. We have to let things develop and come to us. That's just kind of the nature of how things go. When it comes to in tight as well, another big mistake that I see, or I don't know about mistake, but just something that I see that a lot of goalies don't implement enough in their game is the rotations. And I know, again, that's a word, probably at this point, a buzzword for our podcast. I don't know, probably part of the DIY goalie podcast drinking game every time we say rotations. But it's really important to make sure that you get good lines when you're pushing, when the puck's in tight. Because if you push flat, if you don't get back on a good angle on your push, you're not going to cut off the angle. You're not going to cut off the net. And you're going to do a lot of work to not really gain anything. Every now and then that might get you a save or two. But in our position, we want to maximize our probability of making a save. And so getting a good angle back on our pushes is going to help us to get into a better position more consistently. And that comes from rotation. So a lot of times, especially in tight, goalies panic. They need to just go. They feel like, oh no, that pass came, or that puck squeaked out to the backside, or I gave up a bad rebound and I just have to go. I just have to get there. A lot of times, though, they don't actually get there because they're flat. They don't cut off the angle. Puck goes in. Take that split second to get a little bit of a rotation in your body to get a better angle back on a push so that you can get there quicker. It might take you a split second longer to do the rotation, but you should get in the lane quicker. You should be there more with your body too. If you rotate your body, now you can move with your body instead of just stretching out a leg or an arm or anything like that. And absolute worst case scenario, if you are that far behind, if it is a bang bang play, even if you get that bit of a rotation, that gives you a better angle back to be able to dive or throw a leg or an arm out or whatever the case is. You kind of get a bit more ability to cover the net when you get that rotation, because now you're throwing something into the lane on angle with the puck and actually somewhat square to the puck, so that you have a better chance of actually getting into that lane, as opposed to if you just try and stretch or dive or push or whatever the case is just flat. A lot of times that you won't cut off the puck's trajectory. So take the time to really get a good rotation, especially if it's a backdoor pass. Getting that rotation to get a nice good angle on a push back a lot of times is the difference between a save and a goal. And especially if you can get your body around, that's another kind of segue into our next point, is the body. It's your biggest area of coverage. If you can get it over, as opposed to just stretching out a leg or an arm or trying to put your paddle or something like that, you're going to cover a lot more net. Not only that, but if there is a rebound after that play, when you come across with your body, you're in a much better spot to collect yourself and now push to the next scenario. Use your body. Make sure when you rotate, your body squares up to where you're going, and then you get a good push over and get your body there first. Don't just stretch unless you absolutely have to. That's your last case scenario. Get your body over, lead with your shoulder, lead with your hand, lead with your head, all of that first. That's your biggest area of coverage. That's what's going to help you get into that lane. Because normally with these in tight plays, we don't have enough time to actually react to the shot itself. A lot of times it's just positional. We are trying to hit our spot. We are trying to cover as much net as we can. We don't want to do it as just a strictly blocking play. Like, I'm not saying to just lock our hands and stiffen up our body. We still want to be active. We still want to be loose with our hands, our hips, our body, all of that stuff. But a lot of times we're not going to be actively making saves with these in tight shots. So we need to make sure we're tight, we're big, and we're in front. We're cutting off the angle with the hands, the shoulders, elbows tucked in, all of that stuff we talked about earlier. Okay. But it is important to lead more so with the hand and the body. What I kind of like to tell my goalies is after that rotation, you drive that hand out first so you have something in the lane. And then as your body gets into the lane after your push, you kind of, work your body into your elbow. So the arm has been extended, projected out towards that puck. And then as your body follows, your body kind of comes into your elbow to tighten back up so that now our body's there and our hands are there. We're in a good spot. The other thing too is a bit of a tip that really helps for these rotations, that helps kind of keep your body square and all that. So use your stick blade. Follow the puck with your stick blade, not just your head, but your stick blade as well, because that's going to help your hands go. It's going to help your body go in those good rotations. It's also going to help you to have something there for the 5-hole, because a lot of times in tight, goalie lifts a leg up to make a push, and that seems to be right when somebody takes a shot or right when the puck gets poked or something and it slides 5-hole. Sure, it's happened to pretty much everybody listening to this. I know it's happened to me at multiple points throughout my career when I played. You go to open up just to make a small adjustment or a push, and all of a sudden that puck's going right under your legs. So if we can follow the puck with our stick blade, okay, that's going to help with the rotations. That's going to help to cover that 5-hole. And that's also going to give you the opportunity to poke at the puck if you need to. We'll get into that in a second, but you can poke at the puck if you need to. You can kind of, disrupt sticks or whatever you need to do. But it's a good kind of tip or tool to be able to follow the puck. That's a good tip for shootouts and breakaways too, is if you can kind of follow as the player's moving laterally with the stick blade, just follow that puck. That kind of helps you to start those rotations and all of that. So in tight, not only are we having our head and our eyes on the puck, but kind of follow it around with that stick blade. That's going to help your body move with you and keep things nice and covered. When it comes to the stick, though, just be careful. Like when we are looking at poking pucks or anything like that, be very careful that we're not getting ourselves out of position. I see a lot of goalies say they make a save and the rebound's, I don't know, a foot, maybe 2 feet away from them. And then they do this big, massive extension to try and reel the puck in. But then what happens is the other team is trying to get there too. Your defenseman's stick or trying to tie up the offensive player's sticks. It's chaos. All of a sudden the puck gets poked this way. You're going that way, stretched out, wide open net. Puck gets put in, right? It's okay to try and use your stick. It's okay to try and cover the puck, all of that good stuff. But you have to do it in a way that doesn't put you out of position unless you are 110% sure that you are going to get to that puck first, right? But even then, I've seen goalies try and dive out on top of a puck, and when they fall on it, it squirts out to the side or behind them or whatever else. My kind of thing that I like to tell my goalies when we work together is if you can reach it with your stick while maintaining your proper upper body positioning in your butterfly, then great, go for it. Try and pull it back and cover it. If you can't, then just leave it. Again, stay in that butterfly position. Let the play develop in front of you. You react to it. Because as soon as you put yourself out of position to try and reach, try and dive out to cover it or to poke it away, if you lose that race or if you don't get it, you're in a bad spot. So be okay with not getting that puck. It's okay to have that puck sit in front of you and let the play develop in front of you, right? So active stick is good, but make sure you're not lunging, make sure you're not getting onto your stomach or onto your back or side trying to get to it, right? If you can, reel the puck towards you. Use your stick to pull it in towards you and get a glove on it so you don't have to lose your positioning too much. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of hard to explain without the visuals, but in tight, if we can stay tall as best we can, that's going to be helpful too. We talked about our body being our biggest area of coverage. So when we lunge out to try and poke or cover a puck or anything like that, we lose a lot of that coverage because we're getting so low. But the same thing applies to for when we're stretching or pushing or anything like that. The more we can keep our body up and avoid falling on our butt, falling on our stomach, anything like that, the better that the better position we put ourselves in for those scrambles or for any of those in tight plays. So we want to make sure that we keep that body upright, keep the hips as tall as possible while still being loose and being able to play properly. The other thing I see too sometimes in tight is goalies will really drop their butt, drop their hips so that they get really low and really compact, which again opens up a lot more net. It's also harder to move into if we're kind of sitting more back, like with our weight on our feet as opposed to our knees in the butterfly. So when that weight's back from our butt dropping back, that's another one that I see kind of get goalies into trouble as well. Again, stay tall, stay big, try and play as big as you can. And then use those hands, project the hands out. Those are going to be what helps you cut off the angle if a shot does come. Because if you think about it, the in tight pucks have a very, very steep angle that they need to get to that top corner. So the further out you can get your hands or a shoulder or whatever the case is, but more so the hands are kind of the ones we really want to project. The more towards the puck you can get with those, the more you're going to cut off that angled trajectory up that the puck has, right? So if you have a possibility to basically get your glove or your blocker right on top of that puck, if it's a mad scramble in front, you can't cover it, but it's sitting there in front, guys are whacking away. If you can just get that hand almost right over top of that puck, that eliminates kind of that threat of the top corner shot, right? So the more that we can cut that angle off, the more forward in that angle we can get, the less that of the net that the puck sees. So projecting those hands forward is very important. But again, make sure that it's forward and kind of down towards that puck. Because if you just go straight out, all you're going to do is make a big hole for the puck between your glove and your pad. So you have to come down to that puck as you're coming out in front with those hands. And then we still want to make sure we're as tight as possible as we can be. Keep those elbows tucked in. Okay, shift your body over while we're projecting those hands to get a little bit more coverage behind as well. And that'll kind of really help you cut off a lot of that net. Another thing that I kind of see when it comes to in tight play is a lot of goalies default right back to their post. In certain situations, that is okay. But in a lot of other situations, that kind of gets goalies into trouble. It's a very common thing, not just when the puck is in tight, but it's a very common thing in general that goalies just like to be on their posts. It's a comfort thing. We don't, as goalie coaches, as goalies, we don't do enough work, in my opinion, on post play and post transitions and getting comfortable on the posts, as well as dead angle play, working on stuff like the overlap and RVH and when to be in what, all of that stuff. We don't do enough work on that. So goalies just kind of default back to standing post play or the RVH. They kind of suck back to the post. They like being on the post. It's comfortable. They know where they are. But on a lot of these in tight plays, if you're trying to say it's a backdoor pass and say you push back to your post, but the guy's more in the backdoor area and not really like the goal line area, what that's going to do is that's going to kind of prevent your body from getting over a little bit, because eventually your foot gets stuck on that post and you lose your momentum. It's the physics, right? Like if the net is pegged properly, which I know a lot of you guys don't have proper pegs, and that's frustrating as a goalie, trust me. But if your net's pegged properly, you slide into your post, you're going to stop. Your body's not going to carry any momentum through, and then really you just have a leg there. A lot of times that's why goalies kind of end up off their angle on these pushes, is because they hit their post and they stop, and now their kind of like knee is lined up with the puck as opposed to the middle of their body, for example, right? So don't think that you have to just immediately default back to your post. There are a lot of situations where, say, that backdoor pass we were talking about, you're actually going to want your angle of your slide to get you just slightly in front of that post so that you can get that body over. You can get into a good spot. If you need to, you can use that lead leg to catch a quick break, but then you're on your angle. You're in a good position. You're not stuck on the post. And that's a lot of times what happens on our post is we get stuck. Our feet can't move, right? We don't really have the ability to square up properly. It makes for awkward saves, all of that stuff. So sometimes it's good to be in front of that post and don't just default back. That's another thing too, is in tight situations, depth management is interesting and something that a lot of goalies don't understand. Yes, we should be a little bit deeper for our in tight scenarios, but that doesn't mean we necessarily have to suck right back to the goal line. And that's another thing that happens when we go back to our posts and just get comfortable just going right back to the post all the time. That a lot of times leads to us losing depth and losing squareness, right? So it's okay to not be on your goal line, even if the puck's a foot in front of the crease. Yes, you probably don't want to be like right on top of the crease unless you're trying to cover that puck and you have the ability to do so. But we also don't want to be chilling on the goal line. You don't want to be giving up basically the whole net. You want to still be out a little bit, and maybe it's while you're in your butterfly, your feet are touching the goal line, like, you know, the skate blade with your feet sticking out of your pads there, but your knees are like halfway up in the crease, like the halfway point of the crease. That's a perfectly fine situation. Your body still has some depth. You still have some net coverage, but you're still back enough to be able to make movements if you need to on a quick pass or anything like that. So yes, we want to be a little bit deeper so we can move around a little bit easier when the puck's in tight, but that doesn't mean we suck right back to the goal line. There comes a point that you do have to hold your ice. I tell my goalies, you worked hard to get that position. Don't give it up, right? Don't just suck right back and say, oh, this puck's still coming towards me. I guess I need to keep backing up, right? There's a point that you have to hold your line in the sand and defend that net, right? The last thing that I'm kind of going to say and talk about is the awareness portion. And I know we've talked about this a lot throughout the podcast episodes that we've had, but being aware of backside threats, being aware of lefties versus righties, being aware of, you know, the backside deactivating down to the back door, anything like that, like kind of having the anticipation because you know where open threats are can be a big difference in our in tight plays. And just as a goalie in general, we've gone through it lots, but having the ability to process where all the bodies in front of you are can really help you to kind of have a feel for what's going to happen. So if you know that there is a guy open on the back door and somebody say you're on your glove side, shot comes top of the circle, you drop down to make a save, puck gets blocked and it drops in your defenseman's feet. Say you know that there is a guy backdoor. If that puck gets poked over, you already know that you have a threat there and you have to start planning for that, getting a rotation in and pushing over. If you know that, that can happen a lot quicker than trying to process it as it happens and be like, oh, there's a guy there. Now I need to start. By the time you process that and think about it and action it, a lot of times that puck's in the net. If you know ahead of time that that guy's there, you can anticipate that. You can start to kind of prep yourself. Maybe you already took a half step back and now you can get across there that little bit quicker because you don't have as far to go. So that's another one we talk about lots. Being able to read the play, anticipate the play, understand what's going on in front of you, process the game. That's one that, again, doesn't just apply to in tight. It can apply to all facets of the game, but it will help, especially in tight as well. That's kind of all that I have for in tight plays. You guys can work on this stuff lots in practice with just kind of small area games, whether it's an actual team practice doing small area games or whether it's, a goalie specific drill. Like one that I really like to do is I actually will take the net and turn it around on the goal line so it faces the end boards and then just play there, right? Like one-on-one coach against goalie, just play it out in that zone between the goal line and the end boards. And that's really good for kind of getting goalies to anticipate, to be a little bit patient, but also know when they have to drop and, play tight and all of that stuff. It's a fun one for both the coach and the goalies. But anything that kind of gets some in tight work going, it's usually pretty fun because it's kind of a high-paced competitive environment. And it's also really good for establishing a lot of these skills. So anything that involves kind of, in tight scrambles, games of rebound are good, or juice, or whatever it is you guys play. Anything like that is good to build these sort of skills. As always, guys, thanks so much for listening. That's all I got for you guys today. You can check us out on our social media channels. We are on TikTok, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, all at True North Goaltending. We are also on Instagram at YEG Goalie Coach. If you like the podcast, please share it. That's the biggest thing that can help us grow. Share it around, send the link of the episode or the podcast itself to your friends, leave a like, leave a review, follow us, subscribe to us, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever you're consuming this on. That helps us out a lot too. It's good for the algorithms. But the biggest thing is just, getting the word out there, telling your friends, whether it is our YouTube channel or the podcast or our website, whatever. That is one of the biggest things that can help us out. So we very much appreciate that. Everything that we talked about will be in the show notes down below. You can check us out at truenorthgoaltending.com if you would like to book a session with us, if you would like to check out our merch, our drills, our articles, anything like that. That's where you can find us. If you have any listener questions or just a general question for us, if you want to reach out, get in contact with us, you can do so at goalies@truenorthgoaltending.com, and we'll get back to you there when we can. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. It was a pleasure having you today. Take care, goalies. Make some saves.